time I set a goal or dream or something I was excited about, it was like, that's so fucking stupid. That's ridiculous. You're not
Yeah.
doing that. We can't do that. Why would you bother doing that? And just like kept on putting me down over and over again. So it was very
Mm-hmm.
frustrating. So I get that. Getting away from that was huge for me. Yeah.
And see, but that's the thing, James, that we sometimes don't have the courage to speak up just because we feel like, oh my gosh, like, am I wrong? You know, deep down, you know that you're not wrong. Deep down, you know that that's your desire. You have dreams and aspirations that you want to go after, and yet there's this person standing there. There's a whole anchor of culture that is holding you back. So that's when I was just like, man, screw this. It's me. It's now or never. I'm not getting any younger, so I must go after my dreams.
So
But
I
yeah,
remember
are we live?
we did live for a while. I remember at 5 years old wanting to be married and having children and doing that whole thing. I wanted to be a dad from the moment I came out of the womb. That was something I craved. So
Mhm.
when I came to that moment in time where I was like, I got to move on, it was like one of my hardest moments because I had already envisioned us being like on a porch, rocking on a chair, being in love and watching our
Mhm.
grandchildren grow up. So I had that image, which was a false image, and then the image of this person who kept on putting me down. So it was hard to break away from that because the false image was so strong in me. Because I grieve. I don't grieve our marriage, but I grieve the fact that I can't say we've been married for 38 years or we've been
Mhm.
married for 40 years. We've been
Mhm.
together. We made it. Whereas my
Mhm.
friend who got married at the same time as we did are still doing it and still like
Yes.
they still like every year show the picture and go, we've been married for this long. I'm like, that kind of hurts a
Yes.
little bit. Yeah.
Yes.
Well, one of the big things you brought up there, Raquel, is kind of the cultural baggage. And I want to dive in a little bit of
Yes.
that. But before we do, everyone, thank you so much for joining us. James, cue the intro, pal.
And we are live. Soaring Profits Thursday night live with the great Raquel. I can't roll my arms, so that's what I'm going to do. Anyway, here we go.
And welcome to you folks. Thank you for joining us on Soaring Profits Thursday Night Live with the lovely, the beautiful, the talented Raquel Flores. Those of you joining from LinkedIn already know Miss Flores. She has been all over your streams for a very long time, and we are privileged to have her tonight. She is one of the hounds. She is all over everyone's stream, and like I say, we're super glad to have her. And we're going to maybe get a little bit of the sensitive side of Miss Flores this evening, talking a little bit about her background, who she is, and kind of what kind of brought her to where she is now, empowering Latinas, working in the business community and motivating people. So first of all, Raquel, thank you so much for joining us tonight. You have been a guest we've been wanting to bring on here for a while, but we've got to talk a little bit about who you are, what you are, and why you are where you are now. So El Salvador, you're
Yes.
3 years old. Your family starts moving to the United States. Give us your story. Tell us who you are, what you are, and why you are.
My goodness. Well, first of all, guys, thank you so much for having me. It's an honor to be here. You know, my Canadian friends, you guys are amazing. This show is amazing. Just the way you highlight entrepreneurs, you highlight different stories. So it's an honor, and I feel blessed to be here. Thank you so much. But okay, well, thank you for rolling the R's too, or at least attempting. I know I always tell people, yeah, you gotta roll the R. It's Raquel. But yes, y'all. So if y'all don't know a little bit about me, my name is Raquel Flores. From Texas, but I'm originally from El Salvador. It's a tiny, tiny country in Central America, roughly the size of Massachusetts, if you know. My upbringing was rather a particular one, a peculiar one, just because I am the product child of a dumb civil war, and it was very tumultuous in its sense that I saw things that no child should see. I was exposed to different things that no child should be exposed to, but in its sense, that helped me shape who I am today. It having experience violence, having experience, extreme poverty, knowing what's suffering, seeing others suffering, coming up from that. It's rather treacherous, but at the same time is what has built the foundation for me. So I my parents immigrated to this country when I was about 3 years old. And, it's what they're all seeking. They're seeking that American dream, right? Everybody's going after that. And fortunately, the situation with the Civil War at that point, it forced them to leave everything that they had, everything that they knew, and come to this country for betterment in their lives and in their children's lives. So even though, like I said, my story is rooted in tragedy, it's rooted in despair, I never lost hope. I never lost hope that my voice would one day give power to individuals who had been going through the same thing, who are going through the same thing, or who may go through the same thing in the future. And I tend to talk a lot, y'all, so stop me.
No. This tonight is
Raquel
the Raquel Flores show. We are here and we want to dive into who you are. And the beautiful thing, in Western societies now, it doesn't matter if you're in Europe, it doesn't matter if you're in the United States, you're in Canada, wherever you are, a hot button issue is immigration. And, you have someone like yourself and you're talking about fleeing trauma. You're talking about your family leaving persecution and coming to that American dream. And here we are in Canada. So those of you out there on LinkedIn that are Raquel folks that are out there all the time following her, we're the Canadians. So if you've heard anyone talk about the Canadians, that's us. There's the two of us. There's no one else in Canada. It's just us.
That's it.
But
I'm
we
the prime
always,
minister. He's the vice prime minister. Just saying.
right. He gets the big hat. But we are constantly talking about immigration in the West. And often, it's been shown with videos of people jumping over fences and fleeing, but you don't get a lot of the personal stories behind that. It's illegal. It's all of these things. And then when you see somebody and you hear somebody's story like Raquel, it puts a name, it puts a family, it puts a different story on it. And you're fleeing a civil war in El Salvador to try to make something for your family. So you were very young. Your parents leave El Salvador and they come to the United States. Where do they come? Do they come to California? Do they come to New Mexico, Texas? Where do they end up?
Right. So they cross the entire, Central America and Mexico for a quest of a 3-month treacherous quest. And like I said, I admire them for the courage. I admire them for not giving up and giving us that opportunity to actually experience other things in life. And I know that's the biggest sacrifice that they made. It was leaving us for that long, knowing that they were not going to come back anytime soon. So they went in through Texas, actually, and we've remained here ever since. We love Texas so much, especially Houston. Houston has given me so many things in the last 3 decades. I cannot even just fully put it into words, how grateful I am for this state and for this great nation. Just because it is the American dream. My parents realized that. My parents were able to attain it. Not so many have the same luck, but they come for that. They come because the situations in their countries, they're not the most conducive to rearing children, to raising a family, to providing education for those who want it. Like myself, I wanted an education so bad. I wanted to be able to explore the world, and just being able to come to this country and learning the language, learning the culture, assimilating and culturating, gave me that opportunity. So
well, let's talk a little bit about that, Raquel, for the fact that, so you come to this country and you talked about the cultural baggage when we first started this.
Yes.
You come here and education in El Salvador for a woman probably looks a lot different than what it does in, early 2000s, late 90s for Texan female. So Can we talk a little bit about that? What were some of the cultural barriers in El Salvador versus where you are now? And what were the expectations?
Okay, absolutely. So full disclosure though, so I've been here for 30 years. So I came as a child. I got here when I was 9, about to turn 10. So I cannot, equate my journey as a teenager or as a young adult comparison, back in El Salvador to what I experienced here. But during those times, like I said, if we take it back to the 70s and the 80s, the early 80s in El Salvador, education wasn't really seen as something that a woman should be doing. A woman belonged in the kitchen. A woman belonged nurturing the family, catering to the husband, etc. There were not that many expectations for education back then. Unfortunately, some of those mentalities, and I don't blame them, it's ingrained in our culture. When they come even to another country, it's still kind of, that's what is expected. So even though I came to a new country at the same time as my I was already predisposed to maybe, I was going to be a high school dropout, or maybe I was going to have like 3 kids by the age of 20, because unwed young mothers, right? That's what the culture dictated, unfortunately. But so for me, being able to digress from that, having the voice to say, okay, I don't want that for my life. I want something else. I was meant for something else. My parents made the sacrifice and I'm going to honor it. So I remember making a vow to myself when I was 10 years old in a classroom. So I entered 4th grade, not knowing a lick of English, nothing. I think I barely knew how to say like, thank you. And I said it with a with an accent, thank you.
Yeah.
So I made a vow to
You want to
myself.
roll the R.
Of course, I roll the R, but I made a vow to myself, and I remember this day clearly where I told myself, I will learn this language to the best of my ability. I will not. I will incessantly continue studying until I'm able to become a woman of good, as they say in my country. Una mujer de bien, which is a woman of good. It literally translates to that, and what that means is a career woman, right? A woman who gives back to the world, a woman who's full of kindness and who's loyal, but above all remains humble, right? So I believe I've made justice to that that vision that my parents had, but it didn't come with it came full of challenges, I must say, because my parents were still had those mindsets of the culture, like, okay, I wanted to play sports. Let me give you a prime example. So I go through middle school learning English. I would inhale literally a book a day, no joke, because I was so hungry to learn. I was so hungry to learn this language, to perfect it, to the point where now people ask me, where are you from? And I'm like, oh, El Salvador. And they're like, huh? Like, you don't sound like you have an accent. And I'm like, wait a second. I don't know if I need to take that as a compliment or what.
Right.
But it's a beautiful thing that lets me know and validates that I kicked butt. I really attained what I set myself out to do. But going back, right, to middle school, was reading. Come to high school, a different chapter, a whole new ball game, literally. I come from a soccer background. I come from a country that loves and breathes soccer, right? I wanted to play soccer. I saw the girls playing soccer here, but golly, my parents would not have it. A girl doesn't play soccer. That's for boys. And I'm just like, but I see other girls there. Yeah, but you're not gonna go over there. If they go jump off a bridge, are you gonna go jump off with them? And I'm like, it's those sets of mentalities that held me back, and I felt that it held me back. So I told myself, okay, do I stand up for myself against my parents? Not necessarily out of defiance, but out of wanting to pursue what I wanted to pursue.
Yeah.
And to come to find out, I didn't have anybody except my brother. So shout out to you. I know you're watching, my brother Nelson. I love you. He was the only one who really had my back, and he's 4 years older than me. He was the one who understood that I was different. That I was not the typical Salvadoran woman, that I was going to conform and comply and, fit into this mold over here, fit into this box over there, or, be quiet in the corner. Nah, no, I came to stir the pot, but in a good way. So the cultural challenges that I faced were basically vacillating, between being American enough or being Salvadoran enough, and never fulfilling both cups, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. And it's a funny thing to say. And us as, Canadians, right, or Americans, naturalized, we'll call it, or like natural born here, we don't even realize that as a thing, right? When I'm sitting in 8th grade English and you're working on your 12th book today so that you can physically get the language better, and I'm going to go home and I'm going to watch whatever TV show tonight. I'm trying to think 2000s TV shows. Like long, I don't know. I think that was a big one at the time.
Pretty much.
Yeah. Well, maybe a little before that. But those things don't even cross our radar. And that work ethic of I have to figure this out. Where am I going to fit into the society culturally? And then being torn between that's a lot of weight to be put on a 10, 11, 12, 13, 15, 18-year-old person, to have to balance those two things when I want to play. And when do you El Salvadorians call it soccer? Are you just being kind or what? What was that? Soccer.
Football for sure. It's a passion. It's gosh, I cannot even explain it. I'm 5'2". I'm very short, so but I still played. Like I said, it's one of those things that it was just in my blood, and I wasn't going to go against my nature and whatever it's in my veins. I was like, I'm going to play because I was meant to play. So, but going back to my high school years when I was 14, 15, that's when I really just I would say that I completed my journey in learning English. I had a full grasp of the language. I was able to handle myself well between classes. And English was one of my favorite subjects because I was able to, when I dove into a book, I was able to transport and escape my reality. I felt empowered. I felt that I was able to conquer the world. So reading for me was a passion at that point. And then sports then became, we went over to the sports. Let me tell you a story, okay, about soccer, now that we're talking about that. So I tried out for the soccer team my second year of high school. So in my sophomore year, I was like, I'm going to do it. My freshman year, I was too scared to go against my parents. My second year in sophomore, I was like, you know what, screw this. I am going to play because the field is calling me. So I secretly tried out for the soccer team and I made it. But I know when the coach was like, okay, well, you show up to practice, so whichever day. And I was just like, coach, I can't because I don't have my parents' permission. I was like, oh, we'll resolve that. We'll resolve that. Don't worry. This lady ended up going to my house unannounced and wanted to talk to my parents saying, your daughter is so good, because I grew up playing with the boys. I don't have sisters, so I grew up playing with the boys. So, I had a little bit more of a advantage over the girls. So I got the biggest whooping of my life after that lady left. I said, Coach Haneke, if you're ever watching, thank you for that.
Yeah. Yeah, I was just telling them I was at Ashley's house for the next 3 hours after class. Now you blew it all up for me, Coach. Thanks. I appreciate it.
I was like, oh my God. My parents were like, no, I don't know why you have those strangers coming into our house. You're not going to play that. That's not for girls. And I was just like, but I just want to play. They didn't fully understand it, when I was 15. And they were just like, she's just being rebellious. And I'm just like, but wanting to play a sport is not rebellious. Again, I do not blame them. It goes back to culture. It goes back to knowing that that's all they knew. That's what they were taught. So and that in itself drove the point even more strong for me that I needed to I needed to be the change. I needed to make sure that generational curse stopped with me. And by God, did I do that? So it's one of those things that, I became the black sheep of the family. Not so much because of I was ill-intentioned or I had any malice in my heart, just because I digress from what was supposed to be the norm within the culture. So
what is the norm? Like, what were you expected? Like, your family sitting around, you all of a sudden, you're showing up with bruises. You're like, oh, I bumped into a desk, right? All of a sudden, the coach shows up, blows all your story out of the water, and now you're sitting there. What is your family? What is your Salvadorian parent saying to you and being like, hey, our expectations for you are X, Y, and Z. What are those?
Right. So, and that's the thing, my parents were so busy working. And again, it goes back to that's all they knew to do in order to provide for us. They worked, they worked day and night. They got up at 4 a.m, came back home till like 8 p.m. So they were hardly there because they were working. So I used that time to even dive deeper into the books, to dive deeper into education, right? So sometimes they would find me in my room just reading, there she goes again, lost in those books. I don't know what she's doing, but hey, whatever, she's here. So, but that gave me a chance, right, to actually develop that courage and to empower myself to say, you know what? I want more of this. I deserve more of this. You guys, I remember one night that I was so upset. I was like, why don't y'all let me do what I want to do? And it wasn't bad. It wasn't bad things. It was, I wanted to play sports. I was just like, I just want to be a good girl. I want to go to school. I have good grades. And that's another thing. Good grades were an expectation, right? They never enforced it. But it's one of those things that, a parent with one look, they can tell you everything. They just say, you're supposed to make straight A's. So I was the picture of perfection when it came to a well-rounded student, because I wanted that. I wanted to be able to provide that for myself as well, but also honor the sacrifice that they made to give me a better life in this country. And I still carry that to this day. So shout out to my beautiful parents for everything that they did for me. I love you guys. Now it's my turn to take care of y'all. So
And
I say that.
and that's where, and this is where I think it's a beautiful thing is that, okay, so, we've talked a little bit about high school, what that looked like. You end up going to Texas A&M on a scholarship, I believe.
Whoop. Yes.
See, you guys are really cool with your alma mater stuff, right? I love it. I don't see Mark Reed with his Roll Tide in the comments, but it is what it is. I liked A&M. My football team drafted Johnny Manziel. There's a lot to be said about that, but what it is at this point, right?
Yes,
but so
yes.
you end up in a situation where those long nights digging into those books, Belle from Beauty and the Beast here, nose stuck in the book all the time, but it pays off. You end up in a situation where you're off to university, you're promoting this education within your community. Let's talk a little bit about that. What did you take in school and why did you go that path?
Oh my gosh. But before getting to the university, let me tell you the road I had to go with my parents. So being the first one in my family to ever go to college, okay? I'm talking about not just like a community college. So I'm saying, hey, if you're doing that, props to you, keep going. Any type of education, please keep going. You know why? Because at the end of the day, education is something that no one can take away from you. No one. So anyhow.
Hang on a second. I want to nail something down there. That slogan I have heard so many times, that education is something that nobody can take away from you. And so much of that comes from the new to the country mindset. The people that have said that in my life and the people that I've experienced are people that have came from very, very tumultuous circumstances. They've flown from war. They've came to a nation and they realize that my sweat equity, the thing that I work hard on, once I get that certificate, it's there. You can't take the knowledge back. And I've had friends that fled, Cambodia and have come here and their families left awful genocidal things. Yes. You have Afghanis that have come here to Canada, especially, that are like education, education, education. And it's such a beautiful thing. And when you nail that in the way that you put that, it transcends who you are individually to a whole group of people that are like, I have had everything taken away from myself and my family somewhere else. And I think it's such a beautiful story. I think that's cool.
We have it too easy. We don't appreciate the fact that we can go to free education, and we don't appreciate the fact that we have the freedom to say whatever the hell we want to say whenever we want to say it. And we have the freedom to walk down the streets and feel safe and be safe. And we don't have police most of us don't have police harassing us at any given time. So I find people who have come to our country from immigration, my grandparents included, really appreciated the country, really appreciated what they could do, and they used it to their fullest because of it. And our kids, unfortunately, now my kids are a different story. They really crushed it, but there are a lot of kids out there that you don't see their appreciation. They feel like they're being, their rights have been restricted. The rights are being taken away. Whereas Raquel here really knows what that is. And so when she came to the country, was that part of it that you were like, whoa, like I know what that is and I don't want that?
Right. No, I since I had a taste of what that type of life was, and I knew that wasn't for me. I keep saying that I always knew I was meant for more. I just didn't know what that more was until now that I'm about to turn 40, and I'm like, I finally found it, and it's okay. But these 30 years of going through from experience to experience to experience, from falls to ups and downs, etc., it really taught me what the real purpose in life is. And that definition is different for everyone. But for me, going back to that moment when I realized, oh my God, I have the opportunity and the choice to go to college. When back home, I don't think I would have been able to say that. Hey, I don't even know if I would have been alive. But to know that I have the power to say, I want to go to that school and I'm going to apply to that university and know that I can go there, whether I got a scholarship or not. It was so empowering. And that's the turning point for me when I said, dang, I have options and I'm going to run with them. So when I was told that I got a full ride, that I was one of the two kids in my high school, shout out to Jefferson Davis High School now, renamed to Northside High School. When I was told that I was one of the children, the kids who got a full ride, I mean, I was floored. I was like, oh my God. Like, to me, that was significant. Now, when I went home and told them that, like, yes, they congratulated me, but at the same time, they're like, oh, okay, so you're leaving? And I said,
Right.
mind you, the university is only like an hour and a half or 2 hours from here, right? From Houston. But that was the death of my mom. My mom was like, oh my gosh, wait, when you gonna leave? Like, it was a whole drama because no one had ever done that. The expectation of me flying away from the nest is not there. In Hispanic communities, we all expect to stay together, right? In the Hispanic family, the way the way it works, the unity of it, we're all expected to be under the same household, and that's fine. With the American way, no, it's like, you're 18, get the heck out, like go explore the world, And I'm like, that's what I want. I want to be somebody tell me, oh, mommy, I want to go travel. Like, I want to go to Egypt. They're like, why? You're going to get kidnapped. You're going to get, I'm like, oh my God, the plane's going to fall. Like, why is there's so much negativity? So that's another part of our culture. We're so scared because of all that we've gone through and everything that was seen, right?
Trauma breeds that, right?
Yes. And so I'm sorry, mama and daddy, for all the stuff that I did. That I'm telling you, I traveled so much when I was at A&M. I did so many different things. I jumped from perfectly fine planes because I wanted to experience, the world. I just felt that I had the power to do it. So who were they to tell me no?
Right.
I know it's one of those things, but so when I got the notification that I received a full ride, like I said, I went for it. I didn't hesitate, and I said, "My gosh, this is the way, and this is my path to actually leaving a legacy, in pretty much paving the way for those who are going to come after me, whether they're my kids, my cousins, whoever it is that in my family that was going to get inspired by my story." And I said, "Well, this is my chance. This is my chance to let my parents know, thank you for your sacrifice. You did it. You raised a good woman." And this woman now is her time to give back to the world and contribute, being a good citizen, being a good woman, career woman. But at school, so I went for wanting to be a doctor. That was my thing. I want to be a doctor because I thought that was the way I was going to help the world.
Yeah.
Organic chemistry had different plans for me when I was in college. That was the downfall of me. I could do all the biologies. I'm a low key nerd. People wouldn't know that, but I love biology. I did that. My biology was my major, but then medical school was, the second year I was there, I was like, yeah, that medical school ain't gonna do it for me. Once the numbers start mixing with them letters, I was like, I can't do this.
Yeah.
Who thought of this? For God's sake, whenever math is all letters, I'm like, I can't do it anymore. No more for me. I'm out.
My son is a computer programmer, so this is kind of off topic. My son's a computer programmer, but I've sat beside him while he's been doing his math, and I have no idea what he's doing. And he has to do these complicated math things to make, like, I don't know, to change the color of an icon on an app. And it's like this long list of things. And I'm like, how do you remember that? He's like, I don't know, I just do. Like, it's just amazing. People who know math, and people who don't. I'm fairly good at math, but I'm not that good. So you got hit with a disappointment. So how did you handle that? Like, so you're far away from your family. And I remember, because I moved about an hour and a half away from my family, and I was homesick, even though I didn't want to admit it. And I had some tragedies too, where I had a teacher saying that I was in the wrong career and stuff. But how do you handle it? Because you probably haven't made like a ton of friends yet. What do you do with that kind of a size of a disappointment at a young age?
Right. So, gosh, I mean, I was 19 when I was a sophomore in college, and that year in itself was tough. I mean, until I fell into depression. I gained like 20 pounds, and all my life I had been very good. I was an athlete, for God's sakes. Like, and I forgot to mention that. So whenever I finally revealed my parents that I played soccer, they were like, what can we do? They kind of like gave up, and they were like, eh. So I ended up being a huge star in the high school football scene, or not football, soccer scene. Yeah, I love football too, by the way. So
The helmet just didn't quite
yeah.
sit right there.
Going on the pass.
Let me tell you, I was trying out for the kicker as a in my football high school team
I
as a kicker.
bet.
I
Yeah,
love
no,
that.
I went on the field with those guys. So
That's awesome.
they're some of my friends. They can tell the story.
That's
What
awesome.
didn't I do? Oh my god, I was the only girl who wrestled in my high school. I did basketball for a little bit. I didn't like it. I was too short. I mean, 5'2", for God's sake. I never tried volleyball. Never did softball. But I did cheerleading. I was the mascot. Oh my gosh, what didn't I do? So
The
Sleep.
mascot.
Apparently.
I love that.
Apparently you didn't sleep. Oh my God.
I was a cheerleader for 3 years. And so I was doing all these different things, but it's just like once I found the power to say, I'm going to do it. I mean, I was unleashed. Like I went for it, everything. I devoured it. So that same spirit though, I took to college. I wanted to try everything. But that's when I hit the organic chemistry class and I got a D, my first D in my life. I felt so disappointed in myself. I felt like, oh my gosh, you're dumb. Like you're not where you're supposed to be. Maybe this is not for you. So many of those doubts started setting in, and it really drove me into a bad depression to the point where I wanted to come back home. At 19 years old, you're really not mature enough to handle those type of downs, like really downs. So I started stressing, like eating, just eating, and I gained so much weight. Then I started feeling bad about myself, and so yeah, it took a lot of counseling. It took a lot of support from my friends in that community, international community. So this is the other beautiful thing that college provided me with lifelong friends from all over the world. I mean, I can tell you, I have friends anywhere in every country that you can think of that they're just like, yeah, just get a plane ticket. You got a house here. Like, we're here for you because when you realize where you come from with so much poverty and you can't, oh, that's my daughter. I'm sorry.
I had
I'm
to
so
look that up.
My
Like,
daughter is watching me. She's logged in as me, I guess. Hi, baby. I love you. That's why I do the things that I do, right?
aw,
Because I know she's watching
mommy.
me. She's 9. She's about to turn 10 next month. And, I
Amazing.
think about when I was 9 and I was
Yeah,
10, the transitions that I was going through. Oh, gosh, I'm not going to cry. Whew.
yeah.
And I tell myself, if I can do what I've done in 30 years, what can't my daughter do? Right.
Right.
So it's she's one of the reasons that she's seen me in my lowest points in my life as a mom.
Mhm.
She's seen me at my highest, but and she's gonna continue walking that route with me to the top, to building this empire.
That's
Gosh,
amazing.
okay, that's a proud mommy moment there.
No, that is amazing. Like Pat and I talk about that all the time. That our job as fathers is to build a platform for our children to launch off of.
Yes,
I have
yes,
done that. My kids have launched and they're doing amazing. And
yes.
Harlow is on her way. Like
Awesome.
she knows so much information. She could teach me about buying and selling houses and stocks. And it's incredible
My
what this young lady
gosh.
knows already. And she is like just entering, the
Yeah.
next
But
phase of her life. And she's such a good young lady. I love her
yeah,
to death.
yeah.
And
Oh,
she came from that guy. So I just don't understand
yes.
it. But, he does have a great godfather. So it might be something to do with that. I don't know.
That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, no,
Totally.
that's
And
amazing. I get what you're saying. So she's watching you and she's here right now. That was hilarious. So you're
yeah.
in college and there's a
Yes.
group that's formed. So was the group already
Yes.
there, or is that something that was created afterwards, or like how did
Right. So I'm not an introvert. I'm very much an extrovert. And I
No
love
way. No way.
no, come on.
but sometimes, I mean, gosh, I was nervous before coming on the show. And I was like, oh my gosh, I hope I perform well. But it's one of those things that I love dancing. So I was a salsa instructor. And when you start teaching foreign individuals how to dance salsa, there's just something about that music really makes people come together. Like it doesn't matter which part of the world, what walk of life, it just makes you just vibe. So I loved it. I loved it. Being able to teach my fellow students, co-workers, even some professors. They were like, "Oh, you're teaching a class?" I'm like, "Yeah." Even my brother, when he used to play with a band, he actually participated in a couple of the events that I did. So I was able to brings so many individuals together. And so that's the community, that I built. uh, I was one of the co-founders for the first Salvadorian Student Association at Texas A&M University, and it's still there. 20 plus years later, it's still there. But it's one of those things that I carry really as a proud moment, because all these years that the university existed, not one person thought, let's create one. And I was just like, well, I'm here and I'm going to do it. So that experience of being able to really meet an international community, I knew that I wanted to see the world. I started traveling. I started applying for study abroads. And this is why I value traveling so much. And I want my daughters to have the opportunity to be able to see the world. Whenever you have the opportunity to see the world to the lens of another culture, you really dive deep into who you are as a person. And that, to me, being able to go to Angola and live there, being able to, to go to the Dominican Republic and see the culture and experience the culture, go to Nicaragua, go to so many different places that I went to, it really cemented to me that my purpose in life was global. It was bigger than what I envisioned for myself. But I still didn't know what that was, right? So I went to college. I changed majors like 3 times, and I ended up doing a allied health. So it's it's healthcare, but it's not niched. It's more general. After that, I graduated, and then I was like, okay, what's next? I was like, oh, I was 20, I was 24 at that point. I just didn't know exactly what else I needed to do. Somebody suggested, why don't you get a master's? And I'm like, oh, more schooling? Yes, let's go. So again, I was the first one in my family to get a master's degree. I stayed at Texas A&M 2 more years and got my master's in public health. Not that the percentage of Latinas who have a master's in this country, low, very low. So to me, again, that was one of the driving points that I wanted to make sure that Latinas knew y'all have a voice and y'all can do it. Further, go ahead, Ben.
I was just going to jump in that, like, so what you're saying there with the fact that you go and you get the master's, and then you put that back with the fact that, it's statistically a bit of an anomaly right now. But is that not exactly what you're building with LinkedIn? It's like you've addressed an issue. You've said, hey, look I can be something to kind of guide people. I can be the first in my family. I can be the first in my town. I can be the first in my state. I can shine that light where people can go, that's the beacon. I can keep pointing in that direction with Miss Flores, and there's something there. So with LinkedIn, with your persona, with the person who you are, how are you now giving that? How are you shining that light for the Latinas out there that are continuing in their education and wanting to do more and be able to be beacons in their own communities?
Absolutely. And this, this is near and dear to my heart, just because I come from that. I've experienced that, and I fully understand what Latinas are facing. The one thing that really inspired me, let's put it this way, to actually speak up and speak out, is the fact that we're scared to talk about it.
Sure.
All this time, my Latina sisters, and I say Latinas because I'm Latina, and I can, they can resonate, they can vibe with what I'm saying, but sometimes it transcends culture barriers. And some of my Asian friends could say, hey, I understand what you're saying. I went through that. Some of my individuals from, India, for example, they understand that struggle, because there are some sets of norms that we need to abide to, or that we're supposed to follow. Absolutely. But if we digress from that, then there's something wrong with us, or we're seen as rebellious women, or we seem as feminists.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that has nothing to do with the fact that I wanted to go to school, the fact that I wanted to become highly educated and actually leave a legacy of success, whatever that definition is to everyone. That doesn't mean that I'm a bad person, or I'm digressing, or I'm being ill-intentioned towards a group of individuals or towards anyone. It just means that me, Raquel Flores, as a person, wants to do something for herself, to fulfill her cup, to whatever desires that she wants. But unfortunately, we're in a society that doesn't see it that way. We are seeing, we always have a necessity, I don't know, to have labels. Why must we have labels? It goes down to religion. It goes down to politics. Full disclosure, in my family, half of my family is Jehovah's Witness, the other half is Catholic. So you figure that one out, because I
Right.
haven't been able to figure it out.
Right.
There'll be some fights at the dinner table.
The confusion that they created in my head, right? From going from extremes of, oh, you have to create, have to believe in this deity and believe in this, or God doesn't exist or whatever. You have to believe in. It was so crazy that there was one point and I was just like, you know what? I don't want to know anything about religion. Nothing. Don't talk to me about anything. So when people approach me, oh, you're living in sin, I was like, right back at y'all. Like, it doesn't hurt me because I don't see it as that. As long as I have a spiritual, um, just a spiritual connection with the one up there.
Yeah.
That's what matters to me at the end of the day. And I know that I'm a decent human being and I can sleep, at the end of the day and say, hey, I did well. I did good. I was kind, human. I paid it forward as much as I could. That's all that matters to me at the end of the day. But other individuals, it's different. Some people say
culturally, like you're saying, culturally, and again, that forms your understanding of belief structures, right? So then when you walk away from that, you got a lot of people finger wagging, going, no, 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 no. And then that's an added stress. That's an added situation that you have to overcome and deal with and manage, that otherwise, maybe if you were, just some kid growing up in a big city because you grew up there and you were born there and you're third or fourth generation, and some of those religious customs have kind of maybe, digressed or moved into a different direction. That's another obstacle that you're able to overcome. I think it's fantastic. I think it's a very cool story. You go to Angola.
Yeah, Angola was my master's. So at that point, I had gotten to know a different international group from Angola. It was like a whole bunch of them who came on a scholarship for petroleum engineer or some sort of engineer, because Angola is huge on petroleum. So they were here.
A&M is huge. I didn't know this.
Huge.
But like A&M is like the oil university of the world.
We're badass at a lot of stuff. So, but oil is just one. We have one of the best vet schools in the business school. We're good at everything. So,
I love it. And no bias, absolutely no bias whatsoever. When we talk A&M, we are not biased. Yeah.
So shout out to Mark Reed. We're gonna run over you this football season, buddy. Ain't no tide rolling in here. But so going back to that, seeing the lack of representation, right, for Hispanic women in certain industries and certain avenues, and that's what actually gave me the push to say, I want to be the difference. I know as a Salvadoran woman, I don't see a lot of Salvadoran women speaking up about what our culture has to offer to us or what it has done to us. Needless to say, they don't see the value in speaking up. But I was just like, screw that. I am going to talk, because you know what? I don't want my children to grow up feeling like they're doing something wrong. That every step of the way that they take, that they're doubting themselves because they're like, oh, am I hurting this side or am I hurting that side? So to me, I want to be able to give them the freedom to feel, hey, whatever you choose to do is what your little heart says you can do, as long as you're not hurting anyone. I mean, now, if you're being ill-intentioned, then I'm gonna have a problem with that, because that's not how mommy raised you. But again, it boils down to these labels, to these societal norms that we must fulfill. And I'm like, who the hell wrote these societal rules anyways to begin with? I'm like, there must have been butt crevices, I should say. I know Pat cracks up when I say that.
So, just crevices.
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 Posterior crevices. But and so that's why I told myself, as a Salvadoran woman, I'm going to start speaking for my Salvadoran women, not really thinking that this could be a global thing, right? And it can encompass all sorts of culture, transcends barriers, and speak to other things, not just necessarily the culture, but speaking about the education, what they're predisposed to in other rural areas of the world. Like I said, I come from extreme poverty. I know what it feels to be hungry. I know I grew up still not having electricity. I know not having a restroom, not having so many of the commodities that we have nowadays. I know what it feels like. And that's why I cherish and value everything that I've been provided with.
So how do you pass that on to your children? So again, for myself,
Yeah.
I'm a waspy kid growing up in a very middle class community in central Ontario, Canada. Never wanted for anything. Upper middle class upbringing. My mother was an RN, a registered nurse. My father was a hoisting engineer. I lived a fantastic childhood. I couldn't ask for anything more. And when I talk about with my daughter who just turned 14 here, and I talk about values, and I talk about how lucky we are. I don't like the word privileged, but I just say we're very fortunate, right? We work
Fortunate.
very, very hard, but we're very lucky with what we have. How does someone, because you talked earlier, you said, I know what hunger is. I've never missed a meal, and you can probably tell. But when I look at those sorts of situations, how do you get your children? How do you have your children understand the fact that 5 minutes away, there's families that don't have?
Yeah.
And how do you walk into that classroom when you've got your brand new Nikes on and you got the backpack?
Oh my God.
Right? How do you do that? What do you do with your children?
Child, let me tell you, don't even get me started. That's going to trigger some stuff. But I got bullied. I got bullied for 4 years because I didn't have the Nike shoes, the brand name this, the brand. My parents would go thrift shopping, right? Because they couldn't afford anything else. But you know what? When my mom came home with new shoes for me, even though they were used, I was overjoyed. And that is the same value that I am trying to inject in my kids, in this generation. Sometimes the message gets lost, sometimes in translation, but at the end of the day, the one thing that I focus for my kids to learn is the value of hard work. Yes, I don't want the definition of hard work. I want to make sure that they understand the foundation of it, but that doesn't mean that they have to work hard with their hands the rest of their life.
I love that.
But they need to learn what
To use
hard
this
work
one.
working with their hands is like, so they can understand why they don't want to do it. Because I make my kids work hard in certain situations, and they got jobs that they had to use their hands a little bit, worked at Wendy's, stuff like that, and they hated it. And I said, well, if you hate it, then you have to do more. You have to do better. You have to
They're not gonna die. They're not gonna die if they do hard work.
That's right. No, they're not going to die if they help out with cleaning. They're not going to die if they stand beside you while you cook a meal, because they're going to eat it too. No, I get what you're saying. So when I was a kid, my parents were super poor. I didn't have a privileged life when I was a young man. And there were many times that they came home with like the best they could come home with, clothes that, were hand-me-downs or too big, or God, I know I wore woman jeans once. I remember wearing sailor pants. None of this stuff was cool. And I was going to school and getting ridiculed. I was also a fat kid, so that didn't help either. It was just a full cycle. But not then. Then I was crushed a lot, and I had a hard time. But now I feel like that stuff has built who I am, and I wouldn't change a thing.
Yes.
I was asked the other day if I would go back and change anything, and no, because that built who I am. That's why I'm so strong. That's why when I hit adversity, I hit a wall, I can just blast through it. That's why when people come at me and say, why the hell are you doing that? That's not okay. Last weekend, I went to Veld, which is this rave. So it's for young people. It's a rave for young people. I went, I had a great time. I danced the whole time because that's what I love to do.
Yes.
I came out of that. I had so many comments. You're going through a midlife crisis. What's wrong with you, James?
Oh my God.
Like, nothing.
No.
I love dancing. That's what's wrong with me. I love having fun. Leave me alone. But that's not something I would have been able to say in elementary school. I would have went, oh, you're right. You're right. I shouldn't have done that. So are you finding
people that were saying, are you having a midlife crisis? Was me. That was me asking if you had a midlife crisis. Jeez.
But are you finding that that's true? Like you can draw on that strength of these people that tried to put you down, and you were like, oh, yeah.
Literally, I think you took the words right out of my mouth, James, right there. But it's one of those things that's why I also came to LinkedIn. So to answer your question, Pat, about LinkedIn, how am I utilizing this platform and why this platform, and not others? I came to LinkedIn after leaving the corporate world, after having the 9 to 5 for so many years, after, feeling completely washed out, feeling that I was living somebody else's life and not me. I lost. I got myself lost. That
Mhm.
young spirited, filled with so many dreams and aspirations, eager to devour the world, little girl who went to A&M at 18. Fast forward to 30, it was not me anymore. I don't know who that 30-year-old was. It wasn't me.
Right.
So taking back the reins of myself and saying, this is what I want for me was really difficult. It was a difficult decision because that meant the dissolution of my marriage. Unfortunately, we separated. And to this day, I'm not afraid to say it. The father of my kids still doesn't understand it. He doesn't understand that this is what I wanted for my life. I wanted more, and he was just trying to hold me back. Doesn't understand lack of having unison in our aspirations and dreams. So if you're thinking of getting married, y'all
Yes.
really, really pay attention to make sure that your goals, aspirations, and dreams line up. If they don't, make sure that at least your partner is supportive, because that was to me one of the most, I guess, the thorn that just pretty much stuck with us for the duration of our 10-year marriage. Okay, so this was not something that I was like, okay, this is just gonna last just a little bit. No, like when I married him, I thought I was gonna grow old with him, but unfortunately, it didn't, because that resentment, that cultural resentment, that thing was always there. And once the pandemic hit, once the pandemic started, I write in my book, my marriage ended, because I just decided I can't do this anymore. I was doing 80-hour weeks, rearing a 1-year-old in my hip while working on the phone and helping this then 6-year-old with her schoolwork,
Mhm.
while he still remained the same, unchanged. And I was like, I can't do this by myself. I said, if I might struggle by myself, then I need to be by myself. So to this day, I'm still the source, I guess, of ridicule, because I left a perfectly good marriage. Okay, a perfectly good marriage. To whom? Who was it perfect for? Because it wasn't perfect for me. I was suffering in silence because I was afraid to speak up for myself. But the day that I decided to speak up for myself and stand up for myself was the day my life changed, and the purpose of my life was beginning to get revealed. And that was to empower other women, to make sure that they had a voice, to make sure that they are heard and validated, that their ideas, creativity, that their aspirations can be achieved. Why I'm on LinkedIn? So many of us professional women, Latinas, we feel guilty for wanting to be better, because we are the subject of ridicule from our own families, from our own circle of friends, that saying, oh, she thinks she's white. She thinks she can do that. And she's just like one of us. Yeah, I'm culturally one of you, but that doesn't stop me from having limitations as an individual. And we need to be able to educate one another, to say it's okay if somebody wants green instead of blue. It's perfectly okay. It's not hurting you. So why are you going to play down or make a joke on what that person is trying to do? For example, shameless plug. I wanted to write a book. The first time that I brought this up to my then partner, he laughed in my face. He said, haha, that's not for us. What do you mean it's not for us? Oh, it is for us. Why not? We can write our stories. We can leave a
You put
legacy.
the book back up?
Oh, you want me to put it back up? Yes, shameless plug, y'all. It's
There it
Latinas
is.
100. There we go. Leaving a legacy. And my name is right here. I don't know if I can see it, but it's somewhere over here. Right there.
I love it.
Awesome.
Raquel Flores. So
Sorry.
for the first time in my life, even though it took me this long, I can say I am a published author. But the beauty of it is, my first publication is alongside 99 other inspirational people around the world who also dare to have the courage to stand up for themselves against whatever it is that they were going through. So that's why I'm very proud of this edition. Yeah, some people are like, that's a collaboration. Yeah, it's an anthology. And you know what? I wouldn't have thought of it any other way than lifting each other up, inspiring one another, and telling y'all, you have a voice. Your story, your story deserves a stage to be heard. Okay, I'm gonna start getting all emotional now.
No, you're absolutely right. One, your story does need to be heard, and I think it's an amazing story. All of the stuff that you just told us now is like incredible. The journey that you came from to be left alone at such a young age, even with your grandparents, not having your parents
Yeah.
around, having to come here and not understand the language, or being able to communicate, or even the jokes that we tell each other you wouldn't get, or like the fact that, I talk about the Brady Show.
Yeah,
Now, that wouldn't be
yeah,
part of your culture, but we've talked about the Brady Show or something like that. You wouldn't get any of that. And then you
yeah.
built upon that, and you did things that there's a majority of people who've lived here their whole life couldn't possibly do. And not only did you do that, you went further, and now you want to bring the next people up behind you. And I just think you're a
Yes.
beautiful, wonderful woman. And I think it's fantastic what you do on LinkedIn. And I think anyone
Mhm.
listening to you is privileged. And you keep saying shameless plug. You got to stop there. You should embrace who you are and how beautiful you are. And I think collaboration books are the shizzle, because they are, not only do you get to tell your story, but then other stories linked to them
Yes.
to inspire and
Yes.
to hire. And so what's next? You've written a book, you got LinkedIn, you're starting groups all over the place. What's next?
So absolutely, one of my man, gosh, I have so many goals, right? I've been inspired this year. The word of the year for me was unleashed, and my gosh, ain't nobody stopping me. This is what I said. Like, I am here to stay. LinkedIn is my base platform. Although right now I am also diversifying and moving towards YouTube. Thank the Lord for Sia Yasser Torres. Shout out to you, man. That woman has been a guiding angel for me. Like, without her and Mike Asherbanner and the Hounds community, I will not be where I am today. They have given me the courage. They're giving me the platform to actually make these dreams a possibility. Tammy, I can't. I'm not from here. I wish I could. Uh, but but I do see myself as being kind of a bridge between El Salvador and the United States to speak about issues like that. So that maybe that could be there's a position, Mr. President, somewhere in there. But I do see myself leaving a legacy, continuing to build upon what I have so far, surrounding myself with a community that gives and gives and gives without expectation. You guys are part of it, and I know I continuously talk about the Hounds and almost like a cult like way. People say, oh, that's a cult, oh, that's another pot. I was like, say that word one more time. Say that word one more time. I become so defensive because it's not. You guys
No,
see that
it's
this
a
is
family.
not. It is a
Yeah,
family.
the
We
Hounds are
do
a family.
business. We do
Yeah,
business with one another. I mean, golly, there's like millions of dollars being
yeah,
exchanged in between all the different projects that
mhm,
are going on.
yeah,
And, at the end of the day, that's why I am so grateful for the ability to speak up. If I had not spoken up, then I don't know where in the world I would be still. And I know that my voice carries. I know that my voice has power, and I'm not trying to be like arrogant in what I say. And I remember I told you guys about this being braggadocious. Thank you for the dictionary throwing in my face, Mr. Pat. He's like, "Oh, you mean braggadocious? Yeah, yes, I mean braggadocious." And but it's one of those things that if I don't speak up, others feel that they don't have the power to do so.
Right.
So I will have the courage to do so. I will be that voice for the silent. I will be the eyes for those who feel like they've been blinded. I The last thing that I want to do is having one of my Latina sisters feel that that's all. Her being behind a kitchen all day, burying her or her dreams in the back burner, or putting them in the back burner.
Yeah.
That's all what she was made for. Heck no. You were meant for more. Your creativity, my gosh, just pull it out of you. Like, just go out there and do the best that you can. I get fired up because I've been through that. I'm still sort of going through that, and I know that if I ignore, or if I remain silent, then all the feelings of self-doubt will start creeping in and saying, maybe this is not for me.
Yeah.
I always look at myself in the mirror and I says who? This is for me. Watch
Right.
me. Hold my hat. Oh, yeah, hold my hat. This is
Well,
for me.
I think you're absolutely right. I think the more you roll forward, Raquel, the more people see it, the more that you break those barriers and walls, they can follow in your footsteps and not have that fear, because there is a great fear from leaving a marriage to going against your parents, to going against your culture, your people. Uh, all of that is in a bag that you carry on your back, and you did it, and you're on the other side. And not only are you still a loving, kind, and wonderful mother, you take care of your house, you take care of business, but you're also helping the people that helped you get where you are. And I just think it's beautiful. And now these people are watching you do it. And not only are they watching you do it, they can see that they don't have to be afraid. And I think your mentorship is doing that. And I just think that's beautiful.
Well,
I think
44,000 followers, I think you're at now, 44,000 followers on LinkedIn. Like, just brush the shoulder off, no big deal. Right? Yeah. Well, who? What? Me?
Me?
No, it's I don't.
My question is, how does our a young girl from El Salvador, how does she get there? Like, how do you?
44,000 people want to hear you speak.
My gosh.
How do you get there? Like, you've had this life experience, and I don't we did something a little different today with Miss Flores than you've done previously, and we talked really about your story. I wanted to tell who you are, because it's an inspirational, beautiful, inspirational story. But how does Miss Flores go from the kid that wasn't allowed to play football to 44,000 people on LinkedIn? What do you think? Why do you think you're successful right now?
I believe that one of the main drivers for the passion that I have, I don't call this success, to be honest with you. I call it the purpose. This is my purpose. My purpose was to open my mouth. And Raquel, you have, in the back of my mind, I keep hearing, you have a voice. You have a voice. Use it. Use it. Do not allow the fear set in and silence you. And unfortunately, like I said, so many individuals feel that they have to remain silent for fear of judgment, for fear of persecution. And that's why I am here. I know that I was meant for something bigger, and I don't know if it's like a religious, however you want to call it, but I believe I was placed in this world to be a messenger of some sort, to be able to be a speaker for those who feel that they're not seen, validated, heard, felt. And so, but the main thing is, I want to make sure that individuals know that there are opportunities. You do not have to settle. You do not have to conform. You do not have to feel that that was it for you. There is so much more out there for you, but you have to grab the bull by its horn. You really have to. And to answer your question, I think when I felt that I lost who I was, that's when I felt there was nothing more that I can lose, and that I needed to go out there and get it back.
Yeah.
So
that's amazing. So most importantly, so people watching out there right now, they want to be able to grab that brass ring and see how you do it. How do they get in touch with you?
Oh my gosh.
How do they buy your book? We need to know all about that. Now, I'm not fancy like Sia. Like you said, Sia is amazing and incredible, and I wish I could pop up all the
QR codes and everything.
QR codes, and I am still learning what a QR code is, let alone being able to pop it up like that. So if you could just tell everyone best ways to get a hold of you and the best ways to buy that wonderful book that we have to all go in here.
Absolutely. Well, I have to thank my sister Adriana Rosales for putting this together. She owns the publishing company who did this for all of us. They can buy it at Amazon. It's it's called Latinas 100. You won't miss it. You can also see it in my profile on LinkedIn. If you like to get a hold of me, I am on LinkedIn, and that's where I literally spend every single day. I am migrating to YouTube as well, because with the live stream that I have every single Saturday, shameless plug, Raquel Flores Connection Corner.
I on the show. It was lovely.
You guys were so amazing in my show. It's like one of the highest rating shows that I've had so far. But my idea with the live stream is to give the voice to those individuals who feel they don't have a voice. And if God willing continue giving me health and a voice to speak, by God, I will continue using it to highlight other individuals like you, James, you, Patrick, and other individuals who are out there doing fantastic things for the world. So, yeah.
I love it.
I can't say we could end any better than that, Pat. What about you?
You killed it. And as we close out, Raquel, I want to thank you. First of all, everyone, thank you for joining in the comments tonight. What a group, what a great crowd of people, great comments, and what a great story. So, Raquel, as you know, at the end of our little tales here, we get you to lead off with a final word of wisdom. But from me, folks, again, I want to thank you so much. It's been a fantastic journey. The hounds of business Sia, Mike, Afterburner, as we're all starting to call him.
I love that.
That is the
Mike
best.
Afterburner.
I think it's
I
just
think Mark Reed came up with that.
and
Market.
Mark
Yeah.
is in Japan far enough away so that Mike can't get to him, I think is the safe plan. Right? So from me,
Yeah.
folks, I love what we're doing here. Like, subscribe, and share. If you haven't already checked this out, hit us up on LinkedIn. Get in touch with us. What we did tonight with Raquel is we want to tell her story, and what a beautiful story it is. We want to tell your story. We want to be able to discuss and have these really open conversations. So please like, subscribe, and share. Follow us on YouTube. That's where we started off, and that's where we're trying to build an audience as well. And by you coming on here, Raquel, is that you're giving us, you know, an opportunity to tell really beautiful stories, and I'm forever grateful for great, beautiful people. And from me, folks, thank you as always. Let's make some money together. James.
Yeah, Raquel, thank you so much for coming on. You know what? I knew who you were. I knew what you did. I knew how you lifted people up and how beautiful and talented you are, but I had no idea where you came from. And to know the struggles you faced to get where you are, to be the strong woman you are today, you should be nothing but proud. I know I'm more than proud of you. And this is the reason why we started the show, to show people that, you know what, adversity sucks. It's hard to get through, but you can become a Raquel Flores. Raquel Flores. If you just follow her lead. And I think that's beautiful. Next week, we have another such story. We have the wonderful Chris from Walking Tall.
Oh my gosh.
It gives me chills just thinking about him. He survived a mass shooting, and he turned that tragedy into a beautiful community where they raise other people up. They raise money for people who have suffered from mass shootings. They raise money for mental health. They have their hand in so many things to raise awareness about mental health and help people in the community. And that is what Soaring Profits is all about. It's all about helping others. Like I always say, we're in a world that is so divided when everyone just in the center core wants to be loved and wants to have a family. If we can frickin' remember that, we might get back together and start doing some solid, good work again and stop being so entitled and thinking that life is so hard on us, because it's not always. Sometimes it's just what it is. Anyway, guys, I love you out there. Please join us next week for Chris. It's going to be amazing. I can tell you right now, he's an incredible young man, and I've been looking forward to this for a while. As you saw, I think it was last week, I was wearing the shirt.
Yes.
I really want to support these guys because I think what they're doing is amazing. Yeah, thank you very much for coming. Thank you, Raquel. I love you. And let's heal our minds, bodies, and souls together. Raquel, you're up. This
Take
is
us
your
away,
moment.
Miss Flores.
Send us out. You always have the most
Wow.
beautiful words.
What an honor. Let me tell you, shout out to Chris as well with Walking Tall, man. What an amazing story, like you said. And this is what makes it, for me, this is what the essence of a true community is. Being able to rally around one another, supporting one another, despite whatever background you have, whatever industry you have. This is what at the end of the day feeds my soul. If you can be that connection, you know, that one connection that changes somebody's life, please go out there and lead with kindness, lead with love, because I know that at the end of the day, that is what feeds my soul. So never forget that you are important, you are valued, you are loved, you are someone in this world, and your voice needs to be heard. Above all, remember to educate, empower, and uplift. It has been an honor, gentlemen. Thank you so much for this opportunity.
It's almost like you do this for a living or something.